Hello and welcome to another episode. We're talking b-ball today. Again, we're talking NBA basketball. And the question of the day is, who is going to win the NBA championship? With me on the show today, I have my cousin, Eddie Castro. Welcome back on the show, Eddie.
Thank you for having me again.
We were talking before the segment, we were saying that it's going to be hard for anybody to beat Cleveland this year, right?
Right.
If there's one team that could possibly beat Cleveland in the finals, who would it be?
To be a safe bet, I'm going to have to go Golden State and think that this is the reason why Kevin Durant came, to get another shot of the Cavaliers. And I think if there is a team to do it, it will be the Golden State Warriors.
All right, I see what you're saying. So pretty much we're pretty much eliminating any team from the East. Like no team from the East really has a shot at Cleveland. Is that what you're saying?
I think Cleveland is just going to roll over every team in the Eastern Conference this year.
You're saying they're just going to cakewalk straight to the finals? It's just going to just take them to the finals?
It may not necessarily be a cakewalk, but Cleveland can beat you in so many different ways, offensively and defensively. And I don't think there's any team in the Eastern Conference that can match up with them in a 7-game series.
Because last year in the playoffs, they pretty much had an easy time going to the finals. I don't think I've ever seen a team have such an easy time going to the finals than the Cavs did last year.
Right, and it looked like they had fun doing it.
They were having fun.
Despite the Eastern Conference getting better, I just think Cleveland is still just that good.
What about my Knicks?
Well, for them, I would hope they wouldn't prey on getting the 8th seed, because that means they would probably face the Cleveland Cavaliers. But
What about your Nets?
Well, the Nets, you got to understand, that was a good one. The Nets, again, it's just a process. They're playing good basketball right now, and the thing you have to appreciate with Coach Kenny Atkinson is that you can tell that his players want to play for him. They're playing hard.
All right, so I think my pick for the team that could take down Cleveland is the San Antonio Spurs.
Oh, you're really big on the Spurs, huh?
I think the Spurs got a shot this year, man. I mean, Kawhi is playing out of his mind. Aldridge is playing much better, and they got some new players. I think his name is Simmons. Have you seen him play?
Jonathan Simmons.
Yeah, really good defensive player. And they picked up Pau Gasol, and they have a deep bench. They got Ginobili coming off the bench. So I think they're a stacked team. And in the first game of the season, they put a whooping. They gave a whooping on the Warriors.
They sure did.
Yeah, so I think that's my team. I think Greg Popovich is hungry to get back to the finals so he could go up against LeBron and the Cavs. So I wouldn't be surprised if they beat the Warriors in the playoffs. What do you think? Let's say the Warriors and the Spurs are in the playoffs in the Western Conference Finals. Who do you think is going to come out of that? I'm picking the Spurs.
Well, I think between those two teams, it's going to be a dogfight, because ultimately the San Antonio Spurs can beat you with shooting, and they can also beat you in size, something that the Golden State Warriors lack with the departure of Andrew Bogut.
Right.
On the flip side, you got to look at the point guard position, and Tony Parker, as great as he is, he is getting up there in age, and I don't see him being able to keep up with a player of Steph Curry's caliber.
I totally agree. I mean, I love Tony Parker. He's one of my favorite players of all time. I think he's one of the best point guards of all time. I think he's highly underrated, but at this point in his career, I really don't think he could keep up with Steph Curry. And I think we saw that last year where Tony Parker was kind of having a hard time keeping up with some of the best point guards in the league. But aside from that, I feel like the Warriors just don't have the depth that they had last year. I feel like they lost a lot of good players. They lost one of my favorite players, Barbosa, the Brazilian Blur. They lost him. They lost, like you said, Bogut. Harrison Barnes, he wasn't playing too good for them last year, but he was a solid role player. And I think they just don't have as many solid role players as they had last year. And I feel like they're not as tough as they were last year. What you think?
Well, that's the word that's been creeping around the locker room for the Golden State Warriors, is their toughness. You had the gritty with Andrew Bogut, who was willing to sacrifice his body if it meant grabbing up a rebound, giving the team second chance points. Also, Harrison Barnes is lighting up in Dallas right now, and that's
really
15 to 20 points per game.
Yeah, he's
and
averaging like 20.
Leandro Barbosa has been a proven scorer in this league for many years. And then who can forget Mo Buckets, Maurice Bates, who left the Warriors for the Clippers too. He could have gave you points off the board too. Aside from Sean Livingston, the Golden State Warriors really have a lot of question marks as far as their bench goes.
Yeah, a lot of people are counting out the Clippers. I feel like they got better, and they really put a hurting on the Spurs the other day. They really beat the Spurs by, I think it was like 20 points or something like that. So I feel like a lot of people are underestimating the Clippers. I'm not sure why. What do you think?
Well, I see for the Clippers now, they know this year with Blake Griffin becoming a free agent, it's basically championship or bust for the Los Angeles Clippers. So they have improved because it adds another year of experience that the team has been with each other with JJ Redick and Rivers and DeAndre Jordan. So this team is going to be right there within the Western Conference. Do I see them making the finals? I don't necessarily think they are, because I think that Golden State and San Antonio has a little too much offensive power for the Clippers to deal with. And not to mention, going down the stretch, Blake Griffin and Chris Paul have dealt with a lot of injuries during the course of the past 2 or 3 years. So it's all about whether they can stay healthy to actually put it all together and give it one more run.
I totally agree. Now, in terms of the Cavs, like, they're the early favorite. They're the reigning champs. They're gonna defend their championship. But I feel like they don't have a backup point guard right now. I feel like that's one of their main weaknesses, and I think it might come into play once they get to the playoffs. Like, let's say for some reason if Kyrie gets hurt or if he needs some rest, who's gonna be their backup point guard? What do you think about that weakness that they have so far?
Well, I don't think the Cavaliers expected Mo Williams to opt for retirement, and he was a big facilitator within their backup point guard position. And the rookie that they have, Kay Fielder, I mean, he's a good sensational player, but he's inexperienced, and you definitely would like to have an experienced, seasoned veteran point guard to back up Kyrie Irving. So look for the Cavaliers to try to make a move within the trade deadline to address that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think if they don't get a backup point guard, I think that could really hurt them in the playoffs, because they lost Dellavedova, and even though he wasn't like a great player, he was a good role player, and he was gritty. He was willing to like dive on the floor to go after balls, and I think they're really gonna miss that. And I think that was a bad move on their part. What do you think?
It definitely hurt them, because not only was he a player that can score in bunches, Dellavedova was quite underrated. I'm not going to call him one of the great point guards that we have in the league, but as far as every team needs toughness.
Delly.
And that's what Delly provided for that team. But if the Cavaliers can go out and get a veteran point guard to back up Kyrie Irving, somebody who could get used to the system right away and can score in bunches to take the load off of Kyrie Irving, I think the Cavaliers will be in a good position.
All right. Well, that's it for today. So pretty much you're saying the one team that could take him out is probably the Golden State Warriors, right?
Yes, I think the Warriors are in a good position to beat them. They got a lot of scoring power. And if, for whatever reason, Curry and Thomas gets cold, you still have Kevin Durant for MVP.
Exactly. And I'm going with the Spurs. I think the Spurs are going to the NBA Finals. And I'm not sure if they have what it takes to beat the Cavs, but I think it would be a good series. Well, that's all for today's show. Thanks for watching, and thanks, Eddie, for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
No doubt. And please subscribe, and we're gonna keep making more of these videos. We're gonna keep you up to date with what's going on in the NBA. Peace.